Have you ever thought about like how the more you try to like improve yourself, the harder it gets? It's kind of like a paradox, right?
Yeah.
So today we're going to dive into this idea, the downsides of self-improvement. We're going to be using a YouTube video from the Rational Mirror called The Hidden Dangers of Self-Improvement When Growth Becomes a Trap.
Okay.
And get this, the self-improvement industry is worth over $13 billion.
Wow.
If it's supposed to make us better. Like, why are so many of us still feeling stuck?
That is interesting, yeah. It's a huge industry.
Right.
And it basically says that we need to be constantly, like, fixing ourselves.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the problem in the first place.
Yeah, and that's what this video really gets into.
Okay.
And it starts by talking about that feeling of, I'll be happy when,
Yeah.
like when you lose those 10 pounds or get that promotion or finally master that skill, and then you'll be content.
Yeah.
Have you ever been caught in that trap?
Oh, yeah. It's a trap that I think almost everyone falls into at some point. And there's actually like a scientific reason for that. It's called hedonic adaptation.
Okay.
We as humans are kind of programmed to adapt to changes.
Yeah.
Even positive changes.
Right.
So we get that new car or that raise or achieve some big goal. We feel a rush of happiness, but then it kind of fades really quickly.
Yeah.
And then we want more.
Yeah. Yeah.
We set new goals and it just like starts the whole cycle over again.
Right. It's like this never-ending cycle of wanting more.
Exactly.
And I thought the video used a really great analogy of a hamster wheel.
Okay.
We're constantly running and running, but we're not really going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like with fitness, for example, maybe you finally hit your goal weight, but then you're on to building muscle, then it's getting that six-pack, and it just never really ends.
Right.
So instead of feeling satisfied,
Yeah.
you end up feeling like you're always chasing something.
Yeah. And that's where the danger is when self-improvement becomes less about, genuine growth and more about chasing that feeling of satisfaction.
Right.
That's when we start to feel worse instead of better.
Exactly. And the video actually quotes the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer.
Okay.
And he believed that this constant desire for more is actually the root of human suffering.
Wow. That's
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy thought.
It is.
But it's also like really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from this? Like, how do we find a healthier approach to self-improvement?
Well, the video says that a big part of the problem is that we've made self-improvement part of our identity.
Okay.
We start to tie our self-worth to constant progress.
Right.
So anytime we're not moving forward, we feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And then there's this fear that if we're not always striving to be better, then who are we?
It's true. I think a lot of people feel that pressure.
Yeah.
And the video uses this quote that I thought was so powerful. If every aspect of your life revolves around progress, then who are you if you stop improving?
That's a good quote.
It really makes you think, right?
Yes.
It's like we're afraid to just be ourselves.
Yeah.
To accept ourselves as we are.
And you know what? That fear is exactly what the self-improvement industry thrives on.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah, they make money by selling us the next book or the next course or the next quick fix.
Right.
All to achieve this feeling of being enough.
It's almost like they create the problem and then sell us the solution.
Exactly.
And then, of course, this whole always be optimizing idea, it fits perfectly with like our capitalist culture.
Totally.
Which is all about being productive and buying more stuff.
Right.
But where does it leave us as individuals?
That's a good question. Are we actually improving ourselves?
Right.
Or have we become so obsessed with fixing ourselves that we've forgotten what really matters?
Yeah, and I think that's a question that everyone needs to ask themselves.
Absolutely.
And maybe even more importantly, are we actually getting to the root of the problem? Or are we just putting on a Band-Aid without really dealing with the deeper issues? And this is where things get kind of interesting, because the video brings up this concept called Carl Jung's shadow self.
The shadow self.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Jung believed that everyone has this shadow self, which is like a hidden part of us that has all the parts of ourselves that we don't like or that we try to hide.
Okay.
And the video suggests that sometimes we use self-improvement to avoid facing our shadow selves. We keep ourselves busy with goals and achievements.
Yeah.
It's a way to distract ourselves from the messy stuff inside.
I see.
Think about it. How often do you start reading a new self-help book or like a new productivity system when you're feeling anxious or insecure?
Yeah.
Or maybe you set these big ambitious goals to distract yourself from deeper emotional problems.
That makes sense.
It's like we're trying to polish the outside while ignoring what's going on inside.
Right.
And that's why so many of our efforts to improve ourselves end up feeling empty. Because real growth doesn't come from running away from our shadows.
Yeah.
It comes from facing them,
I agree.
It comes from integrating them into our lives.
Absolutely.
So if we're not supposed to chase achievements and run from our shadows, then what are we supposed to do? Like, how do we actually find that lasting fulfillment?
Well, that's a great question. And thankfully, this video doesn't just point out the problems. It actually gives some good solutions.
Okay.
One thing that really stuck with me is this idea of focusing on the process and not just the outcome.
Yeah, I think that could be a huge shift.
Yeah.
We're always thinking about goals in our society.
Right.
So it's easy to forget to enjoy the journey.
It's like we're always rushing towards that next thing.
Right.
Instead of savoring the experience, like actually learning and growing.
Yeah.
The video compares this to Zen philosophy.
Okay.
Which is all about living in the present moment and finding joy regardless of the outcome.
I like that. It reminds me of that saying, the journey is the reward.
Exactly.
But we forget that so easily,
It's hard with all these messages telling us to be successful and reach the top. Right. Exactly.
So what if instead of worrying about how far you have to go, you started appreciating the small wins, the daily efforts, like just showing up and doing the work?
Yeah, it's like changing your mindset from I'll be happy when to I'm happy now because.
Exactly. And when you do that, it takes so much pressure off.
Right.
You're not striving for some perfect future.
Yeah.
You're just enjoying the process of growing.
It's almost like rediscovering that feeling we had as kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like that sense of wonder and curiosity.
Totally.
We did things just because they were fun.
Right.
We didn't worry about being good enough or getting a certain result.
Exactly. And that simple shift can make all the difference.
I agree.
Now, another approach that the video talks about is Stoicism.
Okay.
I know you might be thinking ancient philosophy. How is that relevant to my life?
Yeah.
But trust me, these Stoics had some really great ideas about handling challenges and finding inner peace.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
What can Stoicism teach us about self-improvement? Well, the main idea behind Stoicism is recognizing what you can and can't control.
Okay.
You can't control what happens around you,
Right.
but you can control how you think and react to those things.
So it's about focusing on your mindset and your actions.
Yes, exactly. And there's this great quote from Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher.
Sure.
He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength."
That's a powerful quote.
It is. It reminds us that true strength comes from accepting things as they are.
Right.
And focusing on what you can actually do.
It's not about giving up on self-improvement.
Yeah.
It's about finding strength from within.
Exactly. And that inner strength helps you keep growing even when things get tough.
I see.
Now, the video also talks about Nietzsche's idea of self-overcoming, but it's not about that constant optimization that some self-help gurus talk about.
Yeah, the video definitely makes a distinction there.
It's not about being some kind of superhuman machine.
Right.
Nietzsche thought of self-overcoming as something creative, not an obligation.
So it's about aligning your growth with your own values.
Exactly. It's about choosing your own path instead of following someone else's script.
It's about becoming the author of your own life.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of self-awareness and looking inward.
Right.
It's about asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to create?
Yeah.
And then you use self-improvement to help you achieve that vision.
Not as a way to escape from yourself.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of your own growth.
Yeah.
Instead of letting it be controlled by outside pressure.
So instead of seeing self-improvement as a way to reach happiness or success,
Mm-hmm.
what if we saw it as a journey of self-discovery and self-expression?
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more fully ourselves.
Exactly.
With all our good and bad parts.
Right.
Okay, so it sounds like we've learned something really important.
Right.
Self-improvement isn't always a bad thing,
Right.
but it could be like a trap if we're not careful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, wanting to grow and learn is totally natural.
Right.
It's actually good for us.
Mhm.
The problem is when it becomes like this obsession.
Yeah.
Like we need to fix everything about ourselves.
Right, like we're not good enough.
Yeah, we've all felt that pressure.
Totally.
Right.
Like we're always trying to be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but what if we just accepted ourselves?
Yeah.
Like what all our flaws and everything.
That would be a huge shift.
Right. Instead of focusing on what's wrong with us,
Yeah.
we could focus on what's right.
Like appreciating our strengths.
Yeah.
Embracing our imperfections.
Totally. It's like that saying, the grass is always greener.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the real key to happiness
Yeah.
is not trying to be someone else.
Right.
It's learning to love who we already are.
I agree. And when you start from that place of self-acceptance,
Yeah.
that's when you can really grow.
In a way that feels true to you.
Exactly, not because someone else told you to.
So it's less about fixing ourselves.
Right.
And more about nurturing our growth
Yeah,
in a way that like matches our values.
exactly. And it also means being more picky about what we focus on.
Yeah.
The video talks about asking yourself some questions like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Does it match my values? Does it make me happy?
Right.
Or am I just trying to please someone else?
Those are good questions to think about.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all the different ideas we've talked about, like enjoying the journey,
Right.
accepting ourselves,
Yeah.
aligning our goals with our values. All of these can help us have a better relationship with self-improvement.
Definitely. And it's important to remember that it's an ongoing process.
Well,
There's no finish line. You never really arrive.
It's about always learning and growing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the hidden dangers of self-improvement, what do you hope people take away from this?
I think the most important thing is to remember that self-improvement feels good.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a chore.
It's about embracing what's possible.
Right.
Not beating yourself up for what you're not.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll leave you with one final thought to think about.
Okay.
What would it look like to pursue growth that truly lights you up? Growth that feels right for you, not for anyone else.
Yeah.
What small steps can you take today to start enjoying the journey of self-improvement?
I like that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course.
And remember, the journey of self-discovery is an adventure worth taking.